Look at that. Boom, boom, boom.
You like that?
The check 1, 2. Silent microphone. Great. There we go. Hello, hello, hello. Did I fix it yet? Is it fixed? I don't know if it's fixed yet. I gotta... John can hear the music, but not me. All right.
You like that?
Can you guys hear me now? Can you guys hear me now? I know that there's some... There I am. Okay. All right. I can start it all the way over. Hold on a minute. Let's go back into the back. There we go. Yes. Welcome to the Villain Report. Brought to you by Fanatics.com. That's right. Fanatics. You can get your Lions drip. You can get your Tigers drip. Thank you to our affiliate marketing partners over there at Fanatics.com. I am the Villain. Welcome one, welcome all. Now that everybody can hear me, I had a great intro too. I thought I crushed it. I probably did crush it, but nobody heard it. It was the best. It was the best intro ever.
You like that?
But now, here we are. We're going to talk a little bit today. I wanted to have a couple conversations, couple questions that were in there. Do the Lions have a top 10 player at every position? I wanted to hit that topic that was out there. And trading for players, you know, I mean, this is the lull of the offseason. So we talk about what players you could trade for, you know, all the best pass rushers all of a sudden become available. Who do we need to bolster this roster? Asking questions. That's right. If you have any off-season questions, I wanted to talk about the center, the center training camp battle. Who's going to be in that for the Lions? The Detroit Tigers. They're winning games. It's fun. It's making the summer fun in the city of Detroit. Bearable. It's bearable now. And I'm so glad that everybody can hear me now.
We're going to bite a kneecap off.
There we go. But let's hit this top 10 at every position category, because I think that you can make some arguments of us not having a top 10, but still, it's still a fun exercise to go through right here. So let's look at what we got here. Pride of Detroit, that's where I got this. And when it comes to, let's see, the PFF drop there, 2025 NFL positioning ranks past month, and the Lions had representation in almost every single position. But when it comes to a top 10, take a look. Jared Goff came in at number 9. Jahmyr Gibbs comes in at number 4. Amon-Ra St. Brown is the number 4 wide receiver. Sam Laporta is the number 5 wide receiver. Offensive tackle Penei Sewell is the number 6 player. We didn't have a guard. We didn't have. We're not going to have a center in there because there's no Frank Ragnow anymore. Aleem McNeil, DJ Reader, number 13th and 22nd, so they wouldn't qualify right there. Aiden Hutchinson was rated as the number 5th. Jack Campbell is the number 8th. Cornerback. Oh, wow. DJ Reed is the number 6 cornerback. Yeah, I heard that about that too. And then 5 and 6, respectively, for Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph. And that's crazy. Let's start with Jared Goff. Let's start with Jared Goff. Jared Goff on this list. Let me see. Jared Goff on this list is rated as the number 9th quarterback in the entire NFL. So to Trolsky out there, top 10 at every position. Nope. I would have to agree with that. I don't think the Lions have top 10 players at every single position, but they have top 10 players at a lot of positions. You know, I don't think that any team has top 10 players at every position, but that's crazy to think that they had that many players rated in there. And were they right ratings? Because I'm looking at this. Let me see if I can bring it up for you without having a bunch of extra add-ons with it. But this is from Pride of Detroit right here. And starting with Jared Goff right there is the number 9th. Quarterback in the NFL. Does that seem about right to you guys? I mean, I think that, if I had to make a guess right there, the number 9, the numbers alone would put him in the top 10. You could argue him into top 5 in the numbers, but you can't just always go on numbers. Numbers doesn't always tell the entire story. You know, what are you going to do under pressure? All of those things need to be in there. And I think that, I'm not going to argue either side of that. I like number 9. Number 9 looks like that's about right. I wouldn't argue it. When it comes to being able to execute, read a defense, it's number 9 sounds fine. And of course, Broski's got the over on it. Oh, wow. There's a big surprise. So, number 9 for Jared Goff. I think that's a good rating. I don't think that's too high or too low. There are other quarterbacks that execute, that can do other things too. I understand mobility being one of the things, and it's the one that can do both that are always the best ones. And he just is never going to be that. And that's okay, because he can run the offense. We got a Go Pack Go in there. All right, so we have 3 out of 4 represented here. Do we have a Viking fan in here? Let me know if there's any Viking fans listening, and we might have the entire NFC North represented right here. But we're talking about the Pride of Detroit put out an article that said that was, asking if the Lions have a top 10 player every position and where PFF had them rated. I just kind of want to go through these position by position and see if you can make those arguments. And I think that, if you put Goff at 9 or 10, either or, I think that you could argue that he is right there. 9th. They have Jahmyr Gibbs. Let's go and move on to Jahmyr Gibbs. So they have Jahmyr Gibbs rated as the number 4 running back in the NFL. And once again, I think that that's a fair rating. If you're a really, really diehard Jahmyr Gibbs fan, you might want to put him right there next to Saquon Barkley and say that's like 1A and 1B. But I'm not willing to go on to the next one. So, hey, there you go, broski. Way to be slow on that. He types the stuff in He's a little slow, everybody. I know I've moved on to the next position. I've been talking about running backs here for about 3 minutes, and then he wants me to keep the show moving. You want me to move on from running back? I haven't even talked about the running backs yet. All right. Jahmyr Gibbs, rated as the number 4 running back in the NFL via PFF. I like that rating for him. I mean, if you want to argue, there are some really good running backs. I mean, a Packer fan's probably going to argue Josh Jacobs ahead of him. He had more yards. He's more of a bell cow. So, but I definitely could not argue Jahmyr Gibbs out of the top 10. So I think that I don't even think I could argue him out of the top 5 right there. But the third one on there, they had Amon-Ra St. Brown rated as the number 4 wide receiver in the NFL. And I'm not going to argue that one either. I don't think I would trade Amon-Ra St. Brown for any other wide receiver in the NFL just because of everything that he can do. I mean, you want to talk about the most complete wide receiver in the NFL? We're talking about Amon-Ra St. Brown, but I'm going to get back in here. Let's see what we got on Jahmyr Gibbs. I feel the flow happening in here. We didn't get a lot of anybody saying anything on Goff, but I think that we got something good going on right here. The departure of Ben Johnson changed this team. Absolutely. But let's get into that question. I'm going to star that question from Go Pack Go. Gibbs is good. Broski. Gibbs is the second best running back in the league. So, yes, top 10. Yeah, so he says that's rated low. I like that. John says 2 or 3. You're going to get, okay, I don't know. 4 is too low. Okay. Gibbs never had a full season as an RB1, and he might not have or get a full season ever as an RB1. And, I would rather have him for a long time. David Montgomery wants to run till the wheels come off. So I like that. Now, as the flow of the show goes, they had Amon-Ra St. Brown rated as the number 4 wide receiver in the NFL. And I have no problem with that rating because I'm not going to argue too hard on these higher or low, because if you have a top 10 player at any position, I don't really care where you rate any of those guys. They are game-changing players if they're rated as a top 10 player. And that's why I don't mind Goff being right there at the cusp, because he's on the verge. He could be or couldn't be. Like, it depends on which one shows up. But Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, I wouldn't trade Amon-Ra St. Brown for any other wide receiver in the NFL. I mean, even if you could argue that they're, better, faster, guys that could catch and do more stuff, Amon-Ra St. Brown does all of the other stuff. The blocking downfield, the concentration on a third down to get what he needs to get. I mean, it's not about 40 times when it comes with Amon-Ra St. Brown. I mean, he's one of the best players in the NFL, period. Like, at any position. You can't teach what Amon-Ra St. Brown has, which is that intestinal fortitude, whatever it is. Whatever makes Goff throw it to him on third down every single time, and it seems like we start calling him third down St. Brown, because it's not Amon-Ra, it's third down St. Brown, because he's going to get every third down. You can count on it. You can count on it. So Amon-Ra St. Brown, that's a game-changing player, in my opinion. I have no problem. You can put him at 1, 2, 3, 4, wherever you want to put Amon-Ra St. Brown. You can't get him out of the top 10 now. That would be ridiculous for you to try to do that because it wouldn't make sense. It would be ridiculous. So let's move on to the tight end position where they have Sam Laporta rated as the number 5 tight end in the NFL. And there you go. Sam Laporta. Chomp on that question right there, and I'll see if anybody got You say I would put Amon-Ra same range at his position as Goff, 12 to 15 range. You're crazy. That's hater talk. I'm not going to listen to that nonsense. That's nonsense, broski. I don't care about talent. I want who do I want in the clutch situation, catching balls in the most crucial moments of the game? There's nobody better at that than Amon-Ra St. Brown. You can't. That's nonsense right there. That's hater talking. Haterade. Honestly. So Amon-Ra St. Brown, I mean, you could argue him as the best wide receiver in the NFL, down to 4, 5. I mean, wherever you want to put him, you can't kick him out of the top 10. That's ridiculous. He's been too consistent. You can count on him to catch 130 balls a year. You can count on him to block downfield and do every five-tool player. So you can take talent and stick it. But we're going to move on to Sam Laporta. Let's see if Broski can get Sam Laporta out of the top 5. My favorite Trollski. It's hilarious. Sam Laporta, I mean, number 5 in the NFL. I mean, the numbers are the numbers. He had a great first season, and then last season, I mean, he would tell you that he improved a lot as a blocker. He started out slower, came on more at the end of the season, but he's a great tight end. I mean, he's awesome with the ball in his hand. I mean, from a numbers perspective last year, Sam Laporta, I think that he more suffered from just they used him, or they didn't use him as much because we had other playmakers that were going off. The running game was working, So, Sam Laporta is just incredibly talented tight end. And at number 5, in the NFL, I mean, you can argue the Kittles and, Bowers was insane last year. Kelsey. I mean, I could see why they put him down at 5. But this could be a phenomenal year for Laporta, especially going into a new offense. You start featuring. I mean, what happens if they start featuring the tight end more? I mean, they could flip. There's only one ball. I mean, Goff isn't going to throw for 9,000 yards. So, I mean, if they're scoring 40 points a game, maybe they can get everybody to eat. But it's like Sam Laporta in talent. If he could get the targets, he could be, one of the greatest of all time. But he's not just, he isn't going to get 10, 15 targets in this offense. Is he? I mean, who knows? I mean, are you going to take deep shots with J-Mo? Are you going to, I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown had 140 catches last year. Or, where are these targets going to come from? I mean, Rick C. with the point here says Sam is definitely a top 10. But to be honest, there are many starting caliber tight ends in the NFL. Most teams just settle for what's available and hope for the best. Yeah, and we have one of the plus tight ends, Rick. That's That's I think that what we're trying to say here. When you got a top 10 player, or in this case, the top 5 player at his position, he's a plus player. You know, in the defensive tackle and defensive end room. You know, you're looking for players that can play, but there's very few plus players that are in the NFL. The other guys just need to be able to, you know, stop the run and not embarrass themselves. So now, Broski, I'm giving you a hard time. I'm trying to read your stuff, and it's just funny, the rival fan homerism to automatically want to put their players lower. Automatically. Every single one of these, so all of these guys, so PFF graded these players, and you're going to argue every single one of the players other than Gibbs out of that spot. So I don't have Jameson Williams ranked as a wide receiver. I think he has potential, but we're not going on potential here, are we? I'm just talking about players. This is Pride of Detroit's article right here, and has these players ranked high, ranked low. So, and I just I get emotional about Amon-Ra St. Brown, because Amon-Ra St. Brown is such a great player that, like, I'm passionate about how good he is, broski. I'm passionate about, just like you're passionate about your players. Amon-Ra St. Brown, for the city of Detroit, the franchise, the big catches that he's made. It's like he's epitomized not having the physical attributes or whatever, the 40 times or whatever, and out-grinding people. And you can't name 9 other wide receivers that can go like Amon-Ra St. Brown can go. And you can type out names all that you want, but on this show right here, and you know how the villain feels, it's just nonsense to me. It's not nonsense trolling on some of the stuff, but it's not overboard though. Broski's not being overboard anymore. He used to be overboard. So let's see. So that was Sam Laporta. We were on tight ends right there. Offensive tackles. Let's move on to that. How about that? Penei Sewell rated as the number 6 offensive tackle right here. Now, this is the first one that I think is egregious. Penei Sewell is the 6th best tackle in the NFL. I mean, I only know of one that I would put there. But it is what it is right there. They didn't put him out of the top 10. I mean, he's most definitely a top 10 player at his position. So I don't want to give too much validity to like any list right here. This just gives us something to talk about. And the title of the article says the Detroit Lions have a top 10 player at every position. And I think that, you know, so far, quarterback, you could argue that we have a top 10 player at the quarterback position. You can definitely make that argument. It's not egregious. I'm not being a homer by making it. And that's PFF's ratings, but I'm sure ESPN's and everybody else's ratings are right around in that area. You could go as low as the Trollskis is the 15, but you couldn't. I mean, you're going to take him maybe 12 maybe right there if you want to be awful to him and only and don't take into account for anything that he did good. Jahmyr Gibbs, you know, that's right there. You know, he's a top 10 player at his position. Amon-Ra St. Brown, you could definitely make the argument that he's a top 10 player at his position. Sam Laporta, you make that argument, top 10 player. Offensive tackle, Penei Sewell, you could make an argument that he is a top 10 player at that position. So there's 5 positions. Quarterback. So that's all offensive positions. Okay. So let's get into the offensive line where the guards, they have none. Centers, they have none. Now, I'm just assuming now that they're saying Frank Ragnow is gone. So Frank Ragnow. So in that position, obviously you're not going to have a top 10 player. So center and guard, most definitely not. I mean, we'd be lucky to, we want to be in the top half. You know, we're hoping to have a guy that cracks the top, you know, top 30 at the position. That's what we're hoping for in those positions. You know, you're hoping that a guy steps up, but we don't got a guy right there. So I agree with you, Rick, going in there. Sewell, that's laughable at 6. But, yeah, Broski's making a good point right there. Penei Sewell is the best right tackle in the league. Left tackles just get ranked higher. They just do. That's it. I mean, but it's okay. You know, you still got the point. The whole point to this exercise is, for me, it just reaffirmed. I go through these exercises and it's like, wow, we do have a lot of really, really good player. For as much as we talk about, you know, the one position at the edge, it's like we have a lot of other nice players here. So defensive tackle wise, and it isn't a surprise. Let me know if you think that any of our players. I mean, you can't put any of our players from the center guard position in the top 10. So that's out. But so now we move on to the defensive side of the ball. So let's start with the defensive tackle right there. You got Aleem McNeil that was rated as the 13th and the 22nd defensive tackle for those two. So those would not qualify. I have no problem with either one of those gradings right there. It is what it is. They're both really good players, but Reeder was less available at the beginning of the year, and then Aleem McNeil got injured. So I mean, to rate them as top 10 players and at the you can't really go there. We're not going to have him at the beginning of the season. So I have no problem with the defensive tackle. We don't have a defensive tackle in the top 10 players. We just don't. Looking through it. So, next on the list, no D lineman. Let me get in here. So, at the edge position, Aiden Hutchinson is the 5th, rated as the 5th player, and coming off of the injury, I have no problem. Aiden Hutchinson's a top 10 player at the edge position, no doubt about it. He is 100% coming off of that injury, that 4 to 6 month injury that he had that looked gruesome. But he is a cyborg, man. I couldn't believe how quickly he was out from, like, putting that leg back together, and then he was in the water. It seemed like 3 weeks later. And this guy is a routine machine, Aiden Hutchinson. And to get the fully cleared from the doctor. So now it's just about getting into training camp. And, I think some some battles with Penei Sewell should get him very ready for the season. I think Hutchinson's going to hit the ground running. Literally. He is a cyborg. I think Hutchinson is planning on coming back with the vengeance of 1,000 Wolverines. And you can say whatever you want to say about his injury and doubting the injuries. I'm not going to doubt Aiden Hutchinson in this. I'm not going to doubt the work ethic that is going to put him through here. And this is the type of injury that is a 4 to 6 month injury. He's had plenty of time to heal from this. And now he's got a full month to keep into his workout routines, but he's going to go into training camp, and Hutchinson is going to get the go against Penei Sewell for like 4 weeks straight. And you want to tell me he ain't going to be ready for the season? Man, they'll find out. They'll find out. Haters going to hate, and Hutchinson's going to change the game this year. Let's move on to linebacker. Linebacker, we got Jack Campbell coming in at number 8 in the entire NFL off of his straight breakout year. Jack Campbell, the animal. Jack Campbell, top 10 player at his position. That's the biggest thing of the Lions team that I think is going to be almost unrecognizable. Like the team that won 15 games last year isn't the team that's going to show up. The starters are going to show up this year. Couple of them in particular. When you're talking about progression, the secondary is going to be nasty. But Jack Campbell took a big step forward last year. A tackling machine. You're talking about a guy that had to switch positions in the middle.
You like that?
In the middle of the year. Didn't skip a beat. Was a monster all year long. If he continues to improve on his coverage, which he did by a lot, if he continues to improve, he's already got everything else. He could be special. You could be talking about Jack Campbell as a top 5, maybe one of the top linebackers in the NFL. So I have no problem with where that ranking is. Now, moving on to the defensive back, because it does kind of tie into that, where the defense I think is going to be phenomenal. DJ Reed via PFF was the 6th best cornerback in the NFL. And I understand PFF is not the end all be all. So I do believe that that's high. I don't believe that DJ Reed is a top 10 cornerback in the NFL. But I do believe he's a damn good cornerback. So DJ Reed, and you got Terrion Arnold. Ennis Rakestraw, Amik Robertson. And like I said, when you're looking at that cornerback room, that is something else, because when you tie it to the safety room with two safeties that are top 10 at their position, the back end of this Lions defense is going to be nasty with Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch. I mean, look at the tape. All you got to do is look at the tape. I'm not going to argue with anybody about this because I watched the game. Watch Terrion Arnold from week 1 to week 10, and then watch him from week 10 on. And now he's had a whole offseason. In my mind, I think Terrion Arnold could take a scary jump in his second year, because you could already see he cleaned up the penalty. He had to clean up the penalties at the beginning. He was so handsy. He had 8 out of 9 of his penalties, or 9 out of 10 of his penalties. Don't quote me on that. But he had the bulk of his penalty. All but one of his penalties came in the first half of the season, and then he cleaned them up. So I agree with you, broski. DJ Reed is not a top 10 cornerback. But what I think that he does, why he rated so high on PFF, is there are some things that he does that are top 10 cornerback things. So the technique, the way that he's able to shadow, the short space quickness. I mean, DJ Reed is really, really good at that. But he's not going to be expected to be the shutdown corner. I mean, even though he's being paid in that way, I don't think that that's going to be what he does here, DJ Reed. But I love our cornerback room. Despite, in my opinion, not having a top 10 cornerback at the position, I believe that the cornerback room is loaded with just really, really good guys. I like Terrion Arnold. And like I said, when we go into training camp, guys, do not be surprised if Ennis Rakestraw is a name that's floating to the top of the list. They don't care who has the contract. If he beats out Amik Robertson for the job, then Ennis Rakestraw will win the job. So don't be surprised if Ennis Rakestraw is one of the top corners on our team. So that's why I'm saying his name anyway. Terrion Arnold, Amik Robertson, Ennis Rakestraw, Rock Yasin, Maddox. Like, we have a core. I mean, I remember we had Kendall Vildor last year. Like, I think that the floor of the cornerback room has went up tremendously in there. Let me know what you think about the cornerback room all together in the comments. And there we go. I'll see you in the next one. I keep on forgetting sometimes I'm doing this live thing, but I'm also cutting up stuff for later that I can make into short content. So, moving on, you go into that safety room. That safety room that we have is nasty. And now that we have depth in that room with guys that can play multiple positions, I mean, that back end is nasty, man. I mean, we just paid Kirby Joseph, $21 million a year, and he's the second best safety on our team. It's crazy to think how good that safety room is. And Brian Branch is about ready to take his spot at the top of the safety throne, because that kid is phenomenal. I've been going through the plays, all of the games, one by one as I'm making highlight reels. And gosh, man, Brian Branch is good, man. I'm happy to have Brian Branch on this team, and I hope they find a way to keep both Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch and lock them up here for a while. Keep that backfield together. So definitely, you got 2 players in the top 10. So I don't think that we have a top 10 player at every position. That's the villain verdict. The villain verdict is we do not. That's just unrealistic for anybody to think that you could have one at every position. But you never know. But we got 2 safeties in the top 10. If you want to make the argument for DJ Reed, they have him in the top 10. I'm not going to argue. Jack Campbell is a top 10 player at his position. Aiden Hutchinson is a top 10 player. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then on the offensive side, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Lions have 10 players that you can make an argument that are top 10 at their position. That's crazy. Jared Goff, Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, Penei Sewell, Aiden Hutchinson, Jack Campbell. You can make the argument for DJ Reed if you want. Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph. Did I forget anybody? You know, that's just their list. You want to make an argument for somebody else? That's I love our secondary. I'm just to watch the defense from this year. I am excited because where I'm concerned is where I should be concerned, is what's going to happen with Graham Glasgow in the middle of the center position. It's on the offensive side of the ball. The loss of Ben Johnson. That's where my concern is. On the defensive side of the ball, I expect the Lions to be a lot better on the defensive side of the ball. And it isn't just going to be Kelvin Shepherd. Kelvin Shepherd is going to benefit from being at the right place at the right time. Because the thing is it's been like this. That these players, they were rookies. You know, they grew up together. You know, Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph, you know, Terrion Arnold was playing with Brian Branch at Alabama. These guys grew up together, like learning the game. And progression, I've said it 100 times on here, is the most dangerous thing on any football team is progression. When you get a kid that has all this talent, and every guy that's drafted has a ton of talent. But when it locks in and all of a sudden they, you know, figure out how to play at the level and then they can take those next steps, that's the most dangerous thing. That's more dangerous than any free agent signing that you could ever have. Taking the next jump. Taking the next leap. You know, that's like one of those things with Jack Campbell. He took a leap. That's why he was rated where he was rated. It wasn't by accident. It wasn't somebody at PFF trying to be a homer. He played like that. First year, Jack Campbell was okay. He was good, but you were middle of the pack. You know, Jack, the middle of the pack, Jack. But he took a leap. In the second year, you know, the game starts slowing down. It doesn't for everybody, by the way. It's not just a foregone conclusion. Russ said that in the second year, all the guys take sophomore. No, sometimes they get it right away, and then they have a sophomore slump. But Jack Campbell has been steady Eddie all the way through. And then last year, with all the tackles, he had a breakout year. He put himself in that conversation, even with Trolsky saying 12 to 15. Even if that's the deal, he took a big leap. He wasn't 12 to 15 his rookie year. So that's where the danger is, right? Brian Branch, he's been steady Eddie, but he played all pro his first year. Second year, took another leap. One of the best safeties in the game, even respected here by some of our rival fans. But that's the most dangerous. The thing that he's just going into his third year and that he could take another jump. You know, as players play together and get that continuity, it does go above the coaching, because eventually if you've taken the coaching and then you have the chemistry, I mean, you start doing that stuff with like little looks and communicating with looks. That's where the Lions have an advantage over a lot of teams with a lot of turnover. I mean, we may have had a lot of turnover, but our best players, there was no turnover. That's one thing that Brad Holmes has mastered throughout his tenure here in Detroit, is he made a core foundation, and now there's a plan in place to keep that core foundation together. And that defense, this defense is going to take a big leap next year under Kelvin Shepherd. Now, Kelvin Shepherd's going to get a lot of credit for it, but Aaron Glenn's probably, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to say Aaron Glenn set that up. You know, like Kelvin Shepherd's going to get a lot of credit at the end of next season. They're going to go, oh my God, what a great move by the Lions of, promoting Kelvin Shepherd. And he did such a great job. That defense was so good. And it's like, and I'm going to come up here at that point in time and I'm going to say, hey, Aaron Glenn took 3 years of his life and then he put that ball on a tee right there for Kelvin Shepherd. And Kelvin Shepherd just took that ball that was on the tee, launched back into the swing because it was set up perfectly for him. And that's what's going to happen. Kelvin Shepherd will get a lot of credit, but it's going to be progression. Progression is going to be the reason that the defense is really, really good. Oh, he's a great X's and O's guy. He might be. He might be really, really good at X's and O's, Kelvin Shepherd. But the defense being really, really good is going to be because DJ Reader is going into a season healthy. Levi Onwuzurike is going into the 4th year of this defense. You got Aiden Hutchinson, who's taken ownership of this team there. Jack Campbell, 3rd year of this defense. Brian Branch, 3rd year this defense. Kirby Joseph, been here since the beginning. Aleem McNeil, been here since the beginning. So those guys, they're leveling up because they will themselves to level up. They're in the offseason grinding. A lot of players do grind during the offseason, but we got a culture of that. All these guys going and doing it. And these guys, the grinders, the Brian Branches, the Kirbys and the Campbells, and these guys are going to be better. And so Kelvin Shepherd is going to get the best version of all of those players. So what do you think about that? That's a take right there. Kelvin Shepherd, does he have that teed up real nice for him to be very successful as a defense? Because that's what it's all about. It's about leveling up, man. It's about what you can accomplish in a long period of time. You know, you take the faith aspect, right? Faith, family, and then football. What? Like, I'm going to go to the gym when I'm done here doing this show. And I'm going to go, I don't want to go to the gym. And it's like, if I go to the gym and I decide that I'm going to work harder than I've ever worked, and I work harder and I burn 30,000 calories and I make my body go into until it quits. There's nothing left. There is zero chance that I'm going to lose all of the weight or get to the goals that I want on that one workout. So why do I do it? It's because I have faith that this workout that I'm going to do on a daily basis over and over and over and over and over and over again, that goal, I have the faith of a mustard seed, but I'm willing to put in the work because faith without works is dead. So that's what we have. We have a lot of guys that are like that on the team that understand the leveling up, the getting 1% better every single day. And I hope that you embody that in your own personal life. I hope that you realize that you can take a step towards whatever it is that you're doing. You can take a step towards that right now by coming up with something that you can do on a daily basis that you do that no matter what is unnegotiable, that takes you to a longer goal. And I promise you, if you put that mustard seed into the ground and you continue to do the work at that thing, that it will be blessed by the Creator, because that's the way that it's supposed to be. Put it in the ground, seed it, water it, and then watch it grow. Watch it grow. Like this show. I'm watching it grow. We had no idea what this was going to be at the beginning. And I have no idea what it's going to grow into. But my name is Russell Wayne, and I am the villain. The 313 villain. I would love you to go over and subscribe to the YouTube page. Trying to get to 1,000. Trying to get to 1,000. I have the faith of a mustard seed that if I continue to come in here and grind and do it every single day, keep growing it, that it's going to turn into something beautiful. So I appreciate anybody that subscribes or somebody that goes to the Facebook page. Man, we're going to hit 67,000. We're going to hit 67,000 on the Facebook page. Let's go. Let's go. I appreciate you guys so much. And then we have our affiliate marketing partners at Fanatics, man. If you're going to get a jersey, if you use our link, just know that you're supporting. You're supporting the UDFA of sports podcasting. That's me. The UDFA of 313 Sports. Out here grinding. I ain't scared of a little bit of work. So, I hope we had some good topics in here today. I'm not done yet. It's only 11:55. Because what I wanted to talk about was the center position. Because I got three names that like everybody would be talking about, and I would say two of them are the ones that are the ones that everybody's talking. Tate Ratledge and Graham Glasgow, right? You got the veteran Graham Glasgow, And Graham Glasgow didn't have his best season last year, but when you look back at the tape, it was more like he had a couple really bad games last year, but I don't think that it was all bad. But it wasn't great. It's nothing to call home about. So he has a lot to prove going in here, but he does have center experience. And when Frank Ragnow went out, Graham Glasgow has stepped in and been decent at the center position. He's done it throughout his career, but he's not the guy that you want starting, long term. I don't think that that's the long-term answer. That is one of the solutions. He's going to have a chance. He's going to go into the training camp. And I think it's Graham Glasgow's job to lose, honestly, right off the bat, because he has the experience at it. But the cool thing about Graham Glasgow is if it doesn't work out at center, he can back up any of the positions. So at the very least, Graham Glasgow is a depth piece. That's a nice depth piece. But Tate Ratledge, they had him playing some center, so they're obviously going to give him a shot at doing it. To me, that's very intriguing with him. He's got the athleticism to be able to do some of the things. And a traditional center, you probably would want somebody that's a little bit shorter than 6'9". But with what the Lions like to do, and we love to pull the centers, it's the athleticism. That's stuff that they used to do with Frank Ragnow. They need to find somebody that's like athletic like that. So to me, get him into the competition. Get Tate Ratledge in there, because I wish I could break down offensive line tape like Schlereth and tell you that I'm all smart about it, but I know that when they get into the competition part, that's where it's going to be decided. When they put the pads on and then he's out there and then you have that competition, we'll see if Tate Ratledge can win that job. And to me, that would be the best case scenario. Even though, I want him to win that job because you spent the draft capital on him and you want to see him go in there. It's scary to have him go in there as a brand new rookie starting center. But if he earns it, he earns it. And if he earns it, he must be decent because, he's going to have to beat out Graham Glasgow and he ain't no chump. So there's my thoughts on Tate Ratledge winning that. And both of those guys, if they don't win, that job, that Tate Ratledge or Graham Glasgow could go play one of the other two positions that are also available at both guards. So it's like this musical chairs thing where there's 3 chairs that are down there and there's 7 guys. You know what I'm saying? So, lost my train of thought there. Oh, the third, I had my sleeper guy, right? Is Kingsbury. Let me get some information up on him, because Kingsbury is a player that they brought in last year. And I gotta find him. I had this thing up here. because I wanted to get. I don't want to get the information wrong. London. Yeah, I might have. They had a UDFA from last year, and I'm probably getting it wrong, and I'm going to have to come back up in here and record that later. Let me see if I can. But, you know, some of these, it comes down to practice. These practice squad guys that have been on your deal. He's a dark horse to be able to make the roster. He wouldn't have even last year. He didn't make the roster because Frank Ragnow wasn't on there. So I believe that he would make the roster this year, and I can't find him. There you go. It's Kingsley. His name is Kingsley Agudakon. 6'3", 302 pounds. And he was an undrafted free agent last year. And he just spent the entire offseason. And last year, he spent the entire season on the practice squad. And why is that important? You know, it's important because he knows the checks. He knows what's going on with the offense. He's taken snaps. He's worked with the offense. And, you know, Glasgow, you know, he's there in a pinch, right? But if you have a guy that has experience at it, I would think that he has a chance. So between one of those three guys, I'm sorry it took me so long to find that. That is my bad. I apologize for that. But Kingsley Aguakan is my guy. That's my sleeper. Because I believe that progression is the most dangerous thing that's out there. Let's see if there's anything else that I wanted to get to today. I appreciate the ones that stick here all the way to the end. Like some of these things, I just want I get this stuff out here for shorter content, and I like being under the pressure to be able to put it out there. And a question that I wanted to ask is Brian Branch going to be an all-pro safety coming into this season? Do you think he took exception to not being an all-pro so far? You think that Kirby Joseph getting paid lit a little fire underneath Brian Branch's behind? I think it does. The villain verdict on that is, like, I am very, very excited to see what Brian Branch is going to accomplish this year, because here you got a guy that not only can he play that safety position, but his first season, he was one of the best slot corners in the NFL. And so just the versatility for him to be able to move up, guard somebody right up on the line that's playing in the slot, or drop back and still play, that's phenomenal to have a chess piece that's like that. And then Kirby is the best when he is allowed to just be the Hawk. where he can see and cut off half of the field. I think these guys are starting to figure it out together. They can't execute what you want to execute when you have to bring the kind of pressure that we had to do to get pressure on the quarterback last year. You know, I give the coaching all kinds of credit for being able to win games, you know, win 15 games with whatever you have. But you, at the end of the day, you have to have some talent that goes in there, and you have to be able to get pressure with less people. And unless another injury tsunami happens last year, we're going to get a lot more pressure, especially from the interior. I think we're really, really deep on the interior. And none of those players are top 10 players, but a couple of them might be by the end of the season. You never know, because they have a couple guys that could pop with progression. But Brian Branch, if they can get pressure with less people, that just makes guys like Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph and Terrion Arnold and DJ Reed, makes those guys more dangerous, because they are good, sticky cornerbacks, but you can't ask them to cover for 10 seconds. Got to get pressure. Got to get pressure. So let me know what your thoughts are about Brian Branch in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. I love it. I love you guys being here for this. I need to get better at this. You know? And you guys let me know what you think. I mean, a question is the edge depth still a weak link after cutting Big Z? Let me know that in the comments. I love that. I mean, is Big Z, is this still a game breaker for you guys? Do we need to go out and get Big Z, or it's a failure? Is that where we're at here? Because the villain verdict on that is absolutely not. I mean, there's a reason that he's still out there right now. They're trying to get it. If they're going to get it, they want to get it at the right price point. And Big Z probably isn't going to jump in here until second week of training camp, just like we thought. So the villain verdict is they believe in some of the young talent that they have. So, and I'm not putting Marcus Davenport into that category. They believe in Marcus Davenport. To me, a victory for Marcus Davenport would be play 6 or more games. If we can get 6 games out of Marcus Davenport, he's got talent. He'll probably get 2 or 3 sacks in those 6 games, and I will be happy with that. Mekhi Wingo. This is a guy I think they really believe in. One of the reasons I think that they're just not running and trying to replace this guy with a name, replace that other side. For one thing, I don't think that the position outside of Aiden Hutchinson it's not as dire as it's made out to be. I mean, just from now, it would be dire if Aiden Hutchinson doesn't come back and isn't, at least 90% of what he was at the beginning, even if he has to take some time. But the other side isn't as dire as you would think it is, just because Aiden Hutchinson's a plus player, an elite player. Not everybody has an Aiden Hutchinson. So that's the one thing. Now, the other side, what you want more than sacks is somebody that can stop the run, that isn't going to be a liability in the run game. And the Lions have a bunch of guys that are going to do that, and they're going to rotate them. Aiden Hutchinson plays like 90% of the snaps. None of the other defensive ends that the Lions that are going to be playing opposite Hutchinson are going to play anywhere near that amount. So to ask a second defensive end to get 10 sacks in this defense, the way that we're rolling it out there, is just unrealistic. It's just a successful season for the way that we run this type of defense, or at least the way that they had been playing it, would be that Hutchinson would get the bulk of the sacks, and then you'd have like 3 guys that got 4+ sacks, 4 to 6 sacks. Because if you got guys that are doing a 20% rotation type of thing, they're going to be rotating those guys in and out. Mekhi Wingo, he'll get some snaps. I'm sure that Davenport will get some snaps until he gets injured. I'm sure that Pascal will get some snaps. And Pascal isn't going to get you 10 sacks anyway, but what he will do is he'll set an edge. Mekhi Wingo, right off the bat, before his injury as a rookie, he was setting edges well and showed a little bit of promise right there. He had that LSU. He was the captain at LSU. So they believe in those guys. So they could bring in Zadarius Smith, but even if they bring in Zadarius Smith isn't just going to play, 90% of the snaps. It isn't just going to be Hutchinson and Zadarius out there the whole time. We have other guys that are going to go into a rotation with them. So, can we get Zadarius Smith? Am I going to be upset if we go get Zadarius Smith? The answer to that question is undoubtedly no.
We're going to bite a kneecap off.
I'm always about trying to get more talent. But I also believe in progression. And I think that there's a couple of guys that could pop this year. So broski, that's fine. If you want to minimize all of it, that's fine. That's mine. The thing is you are dead set that Hutchinson, coming off this major injury, he isn't going to be the same. But the guy's been fully cleared, practicing at full speed for over a month already. So I don't know what to tell you. He's going to be 100% week 1, going into week 1. He's going to be practicing with Penei Sewell, one of the best tackles in the league, for 4 weeks. It's going to put a lot of pressure on that leg to get it ready for week 1, to get it into football shape. So he's going into training camp like everybody else. It is what it is, man. You're just wrong on that. Sorry to tell you. But as far as Davenport, I'm not expecting, but you got a rotation. There's nothing wrong with Pascal. And you drafted Hassanin. You can't just put 20 guys on your team and just say, I'm not going to depend on these guys anymore. You can't just say, well, I can't depend on Hassanin because he's a rookie. It's like, that's what they're doing. It's what your team's doing too. Your team's going to do the same thing. You might get rid of a named guy, or you might not go after a named guy, because your team believes in a guy that's on the roster, that's been in your system, that's been practicing with your players. I believe in him more than I believe in, XYZ coming off of, in free agency. So I like the idea. If you want, I think Zadarius Smith is a fine player. I think that he would actually be the best version. All right. If you're just going to argue with, I got to take your comments off there. But if all right. So the question was, is the depth still a weak link after cutting Big Z? And it absolutely is. I mean, it's the weakest link on the team right now, but I think it's the weakest link that has the best chance for progression to help it. Unless all of the stuff doesn't work, then that's fine. Let's see if I have anything else. The biggest injury. Ooh, that's a good question. All right. Is this off-season tempo better or worse than past years? Doesn't it seem like that Brad Holmes has kind of like an off-season tempo, how he likes to go about things? We get to the off-season and we do what every other team does. And we go into the off season and we paint the picture of us getting all of the best players in the world, right? Just like every other team. And then they don't do it. Then Brad Holmes don't do it. What Brad Holmes does is he waits. You know, he might make one, you know, he gave us the DJ Reed, you know, last year he gave us Carlton Davis. You know, you get one, but it's always one that's a little bit cheaper than the other one that's in there. It's like one of the top guys, but it isn't the top guy, and it's always a little bit cheaper. And then he waits. And then he brings in two guys that you haven't heard of, that the whole fan base complains about, that ends up turning into a stud that we love, Amik Robertson. And Brad Holmes has this kind of tempo to his offseason. And then we get into the draft, and then there's just like this best player available thing that everybody hates Brad Holmes' draft right when he does it. And then 1 year later, you get it. And that's the way that Brad Holmes drafts work. So do you like that tempo? Because at some point in time, the trolls are going to be right. You know, if you predict over and over and over and over again, eventually that is going to hit, right? But every year they don't like what Brad Holmes does, don't like the players, we don't believe in the progression, but every year he turns somebody that he drafted late into somebody. You know, you look at Derek Barnes. For 2 years, you think he's a bust until he's not a bust. Now he's, he's not a top 10 corner or a top 10 linebacker, but he's a good linebacker that you got into the fourth round. Aleem McNeil, that's what was another guy. They thought he was a bust. You know, third year, busting out. Gets it together. They don't like it when it happens, but couple years later, it works out. But eventually, it won't work out, right? But do you like that style? The best player available. That's kind of cool. Interesting. That's an interesting question right there. The off-season tempo of Brad Holmes. Do you like that? Oh, hot take. We're not in the lull. I'm going to wrap this thing up. And just so you know, I try to at the end here, I'm doing some recordings so I can make some shorter content. So I get these, I have some content ideas that I threw out there, and I'll try to stay on that. And like, I try to keep the comments involved in it, but sometimes it goes into a left field and I end up arguing about something that had nothing to do with what I'm trying to record. So I'm not here to argue. I'm here to put out a question and pose a question that can be answered. Not a right or wrong thing, I'm a homer, just asking the question type of thing. So, so we're not in a lull. We're in full lockdown mode. Foundation, deep calculated moves. So next week, I don't know. Maybe we'll talk a little bit of Tigers. Maybe we'll talk a little bit of trade rumors or whatever. I know this is the long part of the off season. Throw your suggestions. Any of the topics that you guys want to talk about, you let me know, and I'll make sure that I make it a segment, and I'll give you credit for it too, especially during the lull of this off season. What do you want to talk about sports wise? You can bring up Tiger content ideas, bring up Red Wings, Pistons, whatever you guys want to. It's go time. You want to do that? Let me know about it. It's Faith, Family, and Football right here. This show brought to you by Fanatics. Use that code. The UDFA of 313 Podcasting appreciates it. Out here grinding, doing it. It's Faith, Family, and Football. I'm going to leave you on that good note. May the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May the Lord shine his face upon you until we meet again in Jesus' name. Amen. God bless you guys. My name is Russell Wayne. I am the 313 villain. And I'm out. Peace.
We're going to bite a kneecap off.